Happy Halloween, everyone. Here's wishing you a safe and happy one. I'm Apryl Skies, and welcome to the Gypsy Wagon.
I felt
you wouldn't be able to tell right now. I mean, you still
good.
look like 25 or something, and which is one of the things I was going to bring up about aging as actors that maybe you've experienced too, which I was just making a joke to actress friend of mine, and I said that, there's always been the double standard with men aging, in film and TV versus women. I don't think it's nearly as bad as it used to be. Like it used to be, and she thought this was really funny too. She's like, it used to be like women could do like any role, but then when you got to be like 39, they're like, what do they call it? I'm like, you're now in the Sigourney Weaver territory. Like you're playing the judge, the lawyer, the doctor, the grandma, the city councilwoman or whatever. But it's like those days of like the sex cloud are over, and they're like, yeah, but last year I would just have this sex scene, and like, I'm sorry, honey, you're 39, it's over.
Exactly.
But that's not nearly or necessarily the way it is now. I mean, now it's like, you've got people like Judi Dench that are still like rocking it, like Helen Mirren.
Oh, Helen Mirren's Babely. Oh my God. I would just like be a fly on the wall of her. Taylor Hackford, her husband. Jesus Christ. I would just slower, just like that, Helen. Oh yes, just like that.
But you know what I'm saying? Like it's still obviously a double standard, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. But someone like you who's been through the studio system, I was going to ask you, like, did you have experiences or witness things like maybe like 20 years ago where it was bad and you were like, how can they like say no to these women? Like, you go into these auditions and maybe you're like 20 and then there's women reading for other roles or whatever, but they're like 40 and they don't even look that old, but they're playing the mom or the grandma or the crack whore or what have you.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's so funny because I had such a roller coaster time. I mean, auditioning and things like that, where I honestly didn't. I mean, I've done a few shows, but I feel like compared to a lot of actresses, like my resume pales in comparison to them. I dealt with a lot of size problems. Like I remember I was one of those people that would do whatever I could to get in the door. And so I remember when I was submitting cold resumes, like headshots and resumes to agents and managers. I would always write referred by, and I would make up something. So I remember I forget what it was called. I forget the name of the management company, but it was a bigger manager. Like the manager was like a good manager, and I sent it to him and I was like, I don't know, let's see what happens. And I wrote referred by the Russians. And he called me and he goes, the Russian swim team too?
Oh my God, that's awesome.
He knew like the UCLA Russian swim team. And I was like, no, dude, I just did whatever I could to get in the door. And he's like, I love your chutzpah, come in. And I remember he told me I was too big. I was too overweight. And I probably,
But you're like a twig.
Well, I mean, and even then I was pretty thin. That's what I'm talking about. It's like sizes. It's a thing there. It's a LA. This is like in maybe 2000. Okay. Yeah, it was in 2000. But still, it was one of those things where I was like, what the, and I was like, I was vegan at the time. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't a twig then, but I still was like, I would have, if it was now, I would have been fine. Nobody in a million years would have said a thing. But at that time, he basically told me I was too big. And so I like hit the gym hard for like a month. And I was like, I'm ready. Let me back in, coach. And I came back in. And he goes, you're too ripped. And I was like, Goldilocks and the three fucking bears, you asshole. So I was like, I'm done with this one. But I got a lot of, a lot of overweight, like weight comments growing up. You know what I mean? And that was the thing. I got told I looked like I was pregnant on camera once when I was on a show playing a cheerleader. And I was like,
You're like, I'm sorry, I had a sandwich last week.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, I had the audacity to have 3 French fries instead of 1. But yeah, as far as I had a character, I played a character years ago, but it was very stylized, but she was like 4 years older than me playing my mom. It was hilarious.
It's so true. It's like the reference I'm going to make, you're going to get right away, which God bless them. Their show is doing great, but Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Daniel LaRusso's wife. No, Macho is like 60.
Yeah.
I want to say the woman playing his wife is like 40, 45, maybe.
Jesus.
And then the woman playing their daughter is like 27, playing like 17. And I know that they, that's how they get around the child labor law, so they can work,
right.
more than 8 hours. But I mean, it's just like you look at them and the way they talk, and they're like trying so hard to be like, last night I was on the Twitter, and it's like, okay, it's just
not how we talk. That's not,
I know.
how kids
and it's
talk.
a great show. It's a great show. I don't want to knock it, but yeah, so some of those like ageist things are still in there. But I have an experience that I went through when I first started like going out for like commercial auditions and stuff like 20 years ago. And you're gonna find this hilarious because it wasn't so much about how I looked, it was like my personality. They were like, okay, so Eric, we're gonna do a little improv here, and you and your friends are gonna be like at the mall, and you're thinking about what you're gonna do and like what shops you're gonna go into, and you're getting ready for like the big like beach party with your friends on the weekend. I'm like, I would never do that. But anyway,
that's not.
and I'm like, all right, yeah, sure. And so I start coming up with stuff, and they're like, too busy. And I'm like, oh, okay. So there's like like a guy and a girl, and I'm like riffing with them, and they're like, too busy. And I'm like, well, you want us to have a conversation, right? And they're like, yeah, just less words, less multi-syllable words. I'm like, okay. So we go through it again, and they're like, no pop culture references. Don't mention any music, movies, books, other cities. I'm like, what are we talking about?
Animals, fruit bats.
So then they were like, and can you go like, and you're gonna get this because I know you've had to been told this in some audition, like, can you go like this with your hair? Because I used to have longer hair, and they were like, I'm like, I would, and I told the girl that was sitting right next to me, I would never fucking do that, but okay. I did it, and then it's like at the very end, I realized and then when we got to a point where it's acceptable, and they're like, oh yeah, that's great, okay, well, we'll call you or whatever. And I said to the guy who was in the scene with me, and I said, if they wanted us to act like surfers, they should just said that, and we would have saved like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But they want you to like whittle it down.
Figure it out. Yeah. I'm big on, get detailed. I had a lot when I was, I guess, getting back to the age thing, what I was very frustrated was I was told I looked too young till I was about 26, and then all of a sudden it was like overnight I was too old. It was very funny. Like I couldn't.
Too old to play like the teen characters.
Too old to, well, like, yeah, but when I was in my 20s, like early 20s, I was working on I worked on the Drew Carey show for 6 years as an extra and a stand-in. So I'm still friends with everybody from that time. And a lot of them were doing short films and things. And I was like, I want to play the leading lady or the ingenue or whatever. And they're like, you still look like you're in high school. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? And I honestly don't think I did. But then all of a sudden, like, when I got a little bit older, it was like all of a sudden I was too old for ingenue, but not famous. Because that's the thing, that it's a really weird time. Like right now I have a agent as a host, writer, and producer for unscripted like shows, and like I'm repped. I love her. She's fantastic. It's actually a decent agency, but like it's so hard for me to find representation as an actor because I'm in that weird fuzzy zone where I stepped away for a while. So I have a lot of these co-stars from like my 20s, and then in my 30s I didn't really do anything because when I was in grad school I turned down all sorts of work because I was like, no, I'm in grad school. I'm paying. Right. I paid for grad school. I'm focusing on grad school. So now I don't have tons of credit. So it's really hard for anyone to give me like a second look because they're like, oh well, where are all your guest stars?
Yeah, it's like the whole stuff. What have you done for me lately kind of thing.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, like a lot of it also though, I mean, I started so one of the things I did out of like while I was in grad school was I started pitching science comedy TV shows, and that's still what I do. But I remember I was pitching the first one I came up on was called The Sordid Lives of Primates, which makes me laugh because I was like, really? That's what you did, kid? And speaking of which, I didn't wear it because it's too hot, but I do have my mandrel.
Oh,
Which I use as an example of sexual selection. The male mandrel has a very beautiful, brightly colored face and matching tuchus. Yeah. But yeah, so I started making my own videos when everyone kept telling me no. So the first video I did was the story of boobs, the best tale ever told. Then I did
I remember that one. Yeah.
yeah, and then I did one on Valentine's Day and then the Today Show. Like it's one of those things where that's why being viral is so funny. Like none of my videos have gone, I think, officially viral. I think some of them had like 200,000 views, but they're nothing like millions, you know? But it's just the right person. So I remember right out of grad school, I didn't know what the fuck I was going to do with my life. I was like, I was so tired because I blew through it. It was a 4 to 5 year program that I did in 2 years with field work and a thesis. I lost relationships, you know, like I mean,
Well,
I
you're
had a
going to get cut
boyfriend for
off
many
if you're
years.
out of the country, just
Right?
by sheer fact of time zones, all that stuff.
He just didn't want to come visit me. And I was like, I live in paradise.
I was like, how would I get there? I don't have a car at the time. I'll just swim.
Yes, exactly. Learn to swim very well. But yeah, the Today Show called me right after I graduated and we're like, we're doing a segment on America's obsession with boobs. It must have been a very slow news week. And so they asked me to come on the show and so I talked about America's obsessions with breasts on the Today Show. And I admitted I used to watch softcore porn as a child on the Today Show. I haven't been asked back. But a couple
They're
days
like,
later,
that's great. Coming up next.
right? Yeah. No, the women. So I was on the show with a woman who was like an editor for Glamour magazine, and she's like, I never watched porn, and I was like, bitch, you're lying.
She's like, I just whittled things. I just whittled things.
Oh my God. I was like, come on. And a few days later, Stephen Colbert made fun of us and was like, hey, Today Show, I thought I saw you did a thing about boobs. What about butts? And so I did a rebuttal, and then I did a whole thing about So yeah, and I've always been associated, I guess, with butts. So I just I did Ali Ward's Ologies.
Yeah.
I did an episode about butts earlier this year that has led me to now I'm writing a book. I got an agent based on that. So I'm writing a book about the science behind, if you know what I mean. So yeah, a lot of butt stuff. So much butt stuff. Yeah, it's just rearing and ready to go to get behind the
I think that's fantastic. In fact, I mean, you know, for all the hats that you wear, I mean, you're definitely an inspiration to a lot of people. And one thing that you know, you're talking about doing the online content, it's something that I've kind of gotten into and been kind of lucky the last few years to get some things into festivals, but it's also something that I've told younger people. God, I sound so fucking old when I say that, but people that are like, well, I don't know what other way to put it, new to the entertainment business, or they've moved to LA and they want to get into it, is don't think you're just gonna show up like with the fucking hayseed in your mouth, like Axl Rose and the Welcome to the Jungle video, like that you're gonna walk onto a Spielberg set and he's gonna be like, finally,
he has arrived.
No, it's like I just tell people, make your own thing. Like I was talking to a horror hostess. She hosts her own thing. Her character's name is Malvolia, and she does like all of these little short film things, and she hosts them on her horror show online. And I think that's great. And and some other people I've talked to, I said, if you know somebody who has a camera, become their best friend, because even if it's not like a $5,000 camera, it's like you're gonna save so much, like trying to track down a DP, trying to like rent stuff, or you know, somebody who has a cheap lighting rig, become their friend, because you know, renting a lighting rig or all the other equipment, you know, stuff like that, it's like so much better to just meet a group of people, go out in the woods and make a film, or you know, the beach or a park or somebody's house, and just work from there. And that's kind of like, it's so weird that I started doing that like 20 years ago, and then like the last few years I've kind of gotten back into doing that. But I think, you know, like what you were saying too, like when I was doing a lot more acting and I just started getting into directing, which was just want to do my own thing, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think also not being afraid of, I shoot a lot of my own stuff. Like I'll just set up a tripod, and with iPhones being as good as they are, and I have a really nice old camera because I got it for field work in 2010, but it's an old 5D, but if I can set myself up and I can, even have someone press record. But I'm also just, if you can't find friends, I'm also a big believer, I pay my friends because like, I also think that, you get what you pay for, especially like editing and shooting sometimes. Like I've learned the hard way.
I mean, where's the care level?
Also, yeah, because like for me, as somebody who's a science communicator who, and also as an actor who's been like exploited so many times for a writer, I've been exploited for work all the time. I feel like when it comes to just, can you just do this quick little thing? And then all of a sudden it turns into a whole day. And it's, I'm one of those people when I commit to something and somebody's project, I really want to come through and follow through. So for me, I'm a big believer of paying people, even if like, you can't pay them as much as they deserve, pay them something. Cause as somebody, moving to New York was a very hard thing to do, not because it was, I thrive in New York. I love New York, but I moved there thinking I had a lucrative, steady job, and it was neither of those things. And like it's one thing to hustle my butt off here in LA because, I've got 20 years of, I moved when I was 38 to New York. So I already had like 20 years of, contacts and experience here in LA. But when I moved to New York and realized, holy shit, this job is not going to be enough. I'm going to have like 4 other jobs. But I didn't have the same amount of, contacts. And luckily, a lot of times you can work remotely. I produce content for other people and stuff like that. But I remember really appreciating those people who did hire me for these little, gig economy jobs, even though they were my friends and stuff like that. So either I think it's kind of two ways, like either I scratch your back, you scratch mine, like you find a DP that like needs footage. But if they don't, then make sure you take care of your people because it'll come back to you in a very good way. Because they'll think of you, because they'll, respect you for respecting their time and their energy.
Right.
Because that's what I always tell people, like when science communicators come to me and they're like, I want to do this job. Or I had a friend that I was trying to turn down a job because it was not going to pay. And they're like, well, can I take it? And I said, when you accept a job that does not pay, because I didn't accept it because it does not pay, you are now lowering the bar for these people. Now they're going to continue hiring people who they don't have to pay. And it really just sort of ruins it for all of us,
Right.
You should get what you're worth. You should be able to say, hey, I know you don't have a huge budget, but you can at least cover my gas or $200 or something. Because I think that's something that I've seen growing up in the film industry. And my dad has seen it even more so, and my grandpa for sure. But like back in the day, like that's why the whole IATSE, strike is so important and standing strong with the crew, because like as somebody who worked in the crew for years, there was a time when you always got weekend rates, you always got night pay, like you got taken care of. And now because people are just sort of desperate to work, they're like, okay, fine, there's no weekend rates, because when I do weekend commercials, you used to get double pay. Right. I don't even know if it's a thing anymore. But, or like when I used to work in TV shows, they used to have what they'd call fratter days, where you would start working. Because like what happens is, like, for instance, crew call on Monday, like on an episodic, like say, I used to work on a show called Cold Case. Great show, great crew. We'd start Monday morning, 6 a.m., right? We would go, 15-hour day. And then they have this thing where they have to have at least, I can't remember, it was like 11-hour turnaround. It was like 11 or 12-hour turnaround. So every day it would get pushed, your call time would get pushed. So it'd be 6 a.m., then it'd be 9 a.m., and then it would be 12, or 11 a.m., and then 12. And then by the time Friday rolls around, your call time's like 3 p.m., which means you're going to be working until Saturday morning at 6 a.m.
Yeah, vampire hours.
Yeah. And it's like, you're killing your crew. And then, so what is their weekend? Their weekend is sleeping all day Saturday, and then Sunday, and then back to work at Monday at 6 a.m. And it's just, to me, it's like, oh my goodness. I don't know. Sorry, I went down like a IATSE rabbit hole, but I just.
I think I'm a little happier now. I found what I was looking for. It's the mailbox. Oh, Lord. Oh, hey, sweet. There's some mail in there. Look at that. Wow. Oh, I was really nervous a minute there. Oh, yeah, I think the illuminating cover. Oh, we don't want that. We don't want that. No, no. Oh, no. Oh, what is that? No, bills. No. Oh, what is? Oh, no. That was God. Huh.
Well, no,
It's
because I
fine
just
though, because it's like you have this experience that not necessarily a lot of other people do. And one thing I'm finding just doing this podcast is people know it's like a free thing, and it's like you can come on and talk about whatever you're working on, or plugging a book, or painting, or music, or anything like that. But I also tell them, like, in an email usually, like, hey, but we do have a listing on IMDb, and we'll give you an IMDb credit just as self-guest. And so many people that don't do acting are just like, really? Like, that's a thing? I can do that?
Mhm.
Like, you would do that for me? Like, it takes 5 minutes, but yeah.
It's worth it, and it's a nice thing to do. Because if you
Yeah.
can't, like, that's the thing, is it's like it's finding the ways that you can help people. I mean, I know I used to do. I moved to New York to work with Neil deGrasse Tyson on the TV show, the Star Talk TV show. I wrote comedy for him, and then I was a
Right.
correspondent. But then I also host the podcast. So, and when I hosted, I also was kind of producing them as well. I came up with a topic. Like if it was Neanderthals, and whether Neanderthal nookie, we're humans, and anatomically modern humans, and Neanderthals getting down, and then I would have to, like, that would be the topic. I would have the full outline. I would have to find 2 or 3 guests, usually 3 guests, because it'd be 2 experts and 1 comedian. And then, I'd put together the outline and whatnot. And sometimes people would ask, like, does it pay? And it's like, well, unfortunately, no, to be a guest, it does not. Back then it was a little tough because people had to come into the studio.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
with everything being remote, it's so much easier to be like, yeah, it doesn't pay, but, like, at least you can do it from the comfort of your own home. But yeah, I mean, that's I don't know. I think the best you can do is just give them promotion and give them an opportunity to plug what they're working on and things of that sort.
People are so happy, especially like when I first started doing this with a different co-host. We started doing this back in like April, and we were still like under the stringent lockdown stuff. And people were just, number one, just so excited, like, you're talking to me. They're just like, another human, like,
Yeah.
yay. And then after that, it was like, I was so not just happy, but like relieved that a lot of people, like, kind of lost contact over that like crazy year, that they were working on something, even if it was like freaking like macrame or macaroni art to put on their fridge. It's like they need that outlet. They're like, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing this thing, and it's like Legos shooting out of a pumpkin. I don't know, but it's like something spoke to me. It's like Richard Dreyfuss in Close Encounters. Like, this means something. I don't know.
I make boob paintings. These are my tits as the moon and earth. Yeah. I started making these actually probably when I was 19, but then I started again in 2018. But yeah, you gotta do something. So there's some more tits. See? Yeah, tits. Sometimes, yeah, I do my butt, but these are more tits. But yeah, something to get your brain either not moving, thinking.
Right? You can't just watch special bonus features forever. You gotta do stuff.
Oh God, I mean, that's the thing. My boyfriend and I were just talking about is like, he's like, I love that you have so many hobbies, but like a lot of them, unfortunately, I can't stop. I'm constantly busy because I'm like, I need to be doing something, whether it's trying to make a dumb TikTok video, which I'm old.
I suck at that stuff.
I can't. God, some of my friends are so good, and I'm just like,
it's the, what it is? It's the timing,
mm-hmm.
Not like comedy timing, but like at 15 seconds, 30 seconds. I'm so used to just YouTube. I mean, we've been going on here for like an hour and a half, and if you need to jump off at some time, let me know. But like TikTok is just, I guess it's just, I want to, somebody like a kid will say like, I'm going to copy a song and put like weird glowing lights around it. And that's the whole thing. And you're like, oh.
It has 1.5 million views and like 450,000 likes. And I'm like, I did one on Neanderthals. It took forever.
And then the best thing, because it's the same thing that I probably told my parents about some freaking thing I was into in the 80s or 90s. And I get the attitude, which is great, which is like, you don't even know. I'm like,
don't even
I
understand.
don't know. Teach me, children. Teach me how to be like blah blah blah. Then get like 5.
There is hope for us still, because I started a nonprofit anthropology website years ago called Boaz Network, which was the broadening of anthropology spectrum. Very high, like, and my job, I was the CCO. I was the chief creative officer, so I had to run out. I would go to conferences and run around.
The cuckoo, yes.
I was the cuckoo. Or COVID compliance officer, which I've also done as well. That's also a CCO now.
That sounds so similar to people that are like, look, I'm not just a janitor. I'm a custodial engineer.
Exactly.
My degree is just in the ether.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, it was this really cool website where we made anthropology videos, and it was so much fun and it was great. And then we just, like, we couldn't get the right amount of grants and stuff like that. And she was working and I was working. Like, it just sort of fell apart, like she didn't really want to keep going, which I totally understand. And I was kind of focusing on staying afloat in my world. And so Boaz sort of just drifted off into the ether. But Kahanya is 51, maybe 50. I don't know, but she is killing it on TikTok. Her and her husband are killing it on TikTok. I'm just like, I don't understand. she always, like, she's so sweet, because she'll call me or she'll message me. She's like, you need to get on this. You need to be better about this. You could get such a huge following. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, and part of me, and like, I've seen other friends, because I feel like it's either those quick 15-second things. I did one on Neanderthals that I was very proud of, because I made myself small and I pointed out these cool features of Neanderthals, and it was all flashy and fun. And
but you know what? You know what it is, though? It's the same thing that I run into everybody that's like in our age bracket, which is, it's great for you and it's great for me to see you doing that. But you get like kids under 12 and they're like,
yeah,
it's not somebody that's like doing a famous song or being like acting like a cartoon. So they're like,
But that's the funny thing, though, because I have other friends that are doing, like, just, hey, yo, I'm an archaeologist. Like, my friend is doing a really great thing where she breaks down. Her name's Annalise. She's an archaeologist, but she, like, kind of breaks down, like, different archaeological finds and stuff. And it's very just conversational. It's not and it's just her talking with sometimes some things in the background, and she's killing it as well. So it's like, I
guess it's just,
I'm just trying to still
like,
figure it out. I think and she's younger than than us, but not, she's not 12,
right.
So, and she's not like doing flashy stuff or anything. So I think there's like a fun, and my other friend, Kim Rhodes, who, if I didn't watch this show because we're too old. It's called The Sweet Life with Zach and Cody. She's also on a show called The Supernatural.
Okay. I think I've got Disney Plus, so I'm sure it's on there.
Yeah. She's awesome. She's wonderful, but she's killing it because she has like a built-in fan base with,
right.
Because they all like, she's everybody's Disney mom. And, so yeah, she also, makes very funny videos and just slays. So I'm like, I'm not giving up quite yet, but I'm also just, it's kind of like,
I think the key for a lot of those people that have done those shows is just to put the name of your character in everything. Kind of like what Lucy did, or like Mary Tyler Moore. It's just like, that's so Raven's house. And then when she gets to be like 50, it's going to be like, Raven's like cruise entertainment or whatever. Yep. She's on a boat somewhere doing her Raven shtick or whatever. But that's what the kids, they just think back to that show from the 90s. Yeah. And in their mind, she's still a little kid.
Yeah. Convalescent Raven.
I got to show you this. I just saw this at a Target and I had to pick it up. My daughter kind of liked it because it's kind of like a pirate cat costume. So,
oh my God,
it lights up. But you know what? I just watched again recently, and I was like, "Have you seen It? The 2 movies?"
Which one though? Are you talking about the Tim Curry one or the new one?
The newer ones.
I watched the second.
So like when the clown, like Pennywise, like opens his mouth and he has those lights in there. Yeah. So I was putting this thing together, and I was like, get the deadlights. So
I don't like.
Yeah, I'm like,
yeah, no.
Little cameo shot with that thing.
I'm like, but, here, I've got.
Like, what are you trying to sell me, Target?
I know, they get really weird. So this is what I do to my students. I usually like say hi, and then I'm like,
oh, I've got this thing. This is
Is this thing on? Oh wow.
Is it singing? Oh, that's really cute.
And
I
then
also found if you buy the here, I'll show you. Ugh, God, I'm so old. If you buy the Noah puppet, so the Noah puppet, he's got a mask on because he's very conscious. Okay, this is the Noah puppet, right? It's got sandals and shit. But if you put a wee bowler hat on him, it's Charles Darwin in a bathrobe. I'm sure the creationists love it. That's what I do. Yeah. So it's just Charles Darwin in a bathrobe. Hello. Have you met my finches?
I won't go too much into this, but my daughter has freaked out our neighbors. So when we got this, I call it the witch phone.
Oh.
So I have it on the bookcase, and
tell me more.
Times like I'm gonna like in the bathroom and like she's getting ready for school, and I have to like rush out the door to drive her to her school, and I'm always like, don't play with the witch phone. That's like right on the bookcase. It's right by the wall. We've got thin walls. I don't want somebody like, pounding on. One time this guy came over because she had just put it down, and then we had like already walked down the hall to the elevator, and he was pounding on my door, and he's like, who the fuck is cackling in there? God damn it. So this is the witch phone.
Oh my God.
And it's like this like old school phone, right?
Wow.
And you just
wow.
And then it's
oh my God. That's terrifying.
Right. So that's why it's like, if you were on the other side of a bookcase, on the other side of a wall, and you were like dead asleep at like, 6:30 in the morning, whatever, I'm waking her up or whatever, you'd be like, motherfucker.
Oh no, I would tell you to turn that shit. I get very,
you'd be pounding on the wall.
Yeah. I mean, luckily I lived in pretty, my last place in New York, my upstairs neighbor, his name was Richard, which was very appropriate because he was
a dick.
Yeah. Not very nice. He like when my apartment caught on fire, he was like, well, what did you do? Did you
It had to be you.
He did not like women too. I'll tell you that much. Cause every time like there was an issue, he was like, well, what did you do? And I was like, I actually did nothing.
Are you in there with your cauldron, just like stirring it up?
Yeah, no, but
good impression on the phone, by the way. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, I did a little voiceover in my day. Oh, actually, did you ever see Drag Me to Hell?
Yeah.
Okay, so
the Sam Raimi movie, right?
Yeah. So this is one of those. This is actually like my wham story. I don't take. Well, not really wham. I was annoyed because look. So I worked at Sony for years. I worked at the store in the lot. I became friends. It was one of those stores where it was candy, cigarettes, DVD, CDs, and I would I'd show up in like a fucking cheerleader skirt and a tank top and just be like in Converse sneakers and be like, what do you want? Right. And generally I was charming, but if I was in a bad mood, everybody knew it. It was like, and I remember I had a breakup at one point and I was just like constantly sobbing and like selling things, and, but I would get people in the store and I'd have no idea who they were because if they weren't wearing our name tag, like, Amy Pascal, like the head of the studio at the time, I had no idea. She'd come in all the time. I had no idea who she was until finally she wore a name tag. And I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Sam Raimi came in a couple times and I was like, I knew who he was. Yeah, I recognized him. But my favorite though, the best ever was Mel Brooks. And I always said if he came in, because I'm actually pitching a show right now, hoping that somehow it might happen. That's the Uncensored History of the World with Mel and Nat. If anyone's watching and knows Mel Brooks and wants to make it happen, I would just need a day of him on a Zoom call. That's it. But anyways, he came into the store and I was going to quote a line from Blazing Saddles, but everyone that I thought I was highly inappropriate. And so I just looked at him and I went, yeah, right. I was like, you use your tongue prettier than a $20 whore. No, but I just looked at him and I just went, I love you. And it came out just like that. Super fucking awkward. Like he was so embarrassing and loud. And he was great. He goes, that was easy. And then he let me talk to him, I asked him a million questions for about 25 minutes. I asked him about my favorite character in Blazing Saddles. I asked him about like, what was it like working with, Gene Wilder and like his writing process and like Carl Reiner and all this kind of stuff. And he was just totally down to talk and so sweet and so patient with me. And of course at the end of it, he was like, well, what do you do? Are you an actress? Cause I was this like, a young bubbly thing. And I was like, yes, I am. And he goes, I said, my dream is to work with you one day. And he goes, you will, one day we'll make it happen. And of course, like ever since then, I've just been like, how can I make this happen? But anyways, that's one story. But one of the groups of people that used to come through were Sam Raimi's illustrators on, you know, Spider-Man would come through, and they would the ones that would make the animatic presentations for movies that were being developed, because that's how you get a movie usually greenlit by a studio. So Drag Me to Hell had a full animatic presentation before they said yes. They were going to have a man named Jeff Lynch, who was a fantastic director and illustrator, direct it. And so I was asked, because Jeff and I became friends, he's like, hey, do you do voiceover? I said, yeah. And he said, we need somebody to do the voiceover of the girl in Drag Me to Hell, but also the 80-year-old Hungarian witch. And I said, perfect, I will be your witch. And so I got to do Alison Lohman's character in Drag Me to Hell, but also her name was, I think, Ganoush. And so I got to be her, and I had to scream. What they had me do is they had me scream into a pillow. And by the way, the guy who was I'm going to feel so bad. His name was Paul, and he's the guy that was the recording engineer, wins Oscars. I swear to God, every year I watch the Oscars, and it's the same guy. And it's my friend that would like come into the store all the time and like buy shit. But also he recorded this animatic presentation voiceover. But it was really great doing the young woman character and then having to scream into a pillow to do this like Hungarian witch. But the whole point of me doing this was I did not get paid. I was going to get an audition. Like that was kind of like, you're doing this as a favor to get the movie greenlit, but we'll have you audition for the lead character. I knew that the chances being, you know, I was 25, I was nobody, 25, 26, nobody, they'd not done anything major, but I still was like, oh my God, I want to do this. And then it turns out Sam decided to take over the project. For whatever reason, Sam was directing. And I was like, son of a bitch, because Jeff Lynch was the guy that like sat with me the whole time during the voiceover, had me screaming into a pillow. I was also chewing up chocolate. So my mouth was all garbled. So when I was like choking, it sounded real. We did all sorts of cool techniques to make it sound as real as possible. Well, he was no longer on the project. So Sam Raimi's producer, Grant Curtis, who I love, he had to have known this. I had the biggest crush on him, always had a huge crush on him, but didn't know what he did on the lot. Like he was just a guy that would come in that would buy Wrigley's gum or something. And I remember going to a Spider-Man 3 cast and crew screening because I knew all the illustrators. They invited me, and Grant got up and introduced the movie because he produced it. I had no idea. But anyways, I messaged him and I was like, hey, is there any way I can get an audition for this film? And he said, you know what? Yes, you did all this work for us. You helped make it happen. You helped make it get greenlit.
Right.
We'll get you an audition. And so it was hilarious. It was back when fax machines were a thing. It was 2008. It was my birthday. It was my birthday of the audition. And I was supposed to get a fax of, the sides. And so I had to call them and I was like, hey, I haven't gotten an email yet. They're like, oh, don't worry, we'll fax you. So they faxed me, and literally the writing on the page was this much. It was like an inch of writing. And I was like, really? And I pick up, and the line was one line and one word. What word do you think it was?
Fuck.
Really?
Oh, that's what it was?
That's it. So that's what I said when I saw it. I was like, really? And then I pick it up and it was, really? And I was like, are you fucking? So my best friend who was living next door to me came over, and we practiced me saying really about 560 times as a joke. And I went to the audition on my birthday.
Oh,
Still didn't get it.
God.
I did like days and days of work doing the voiceover stuff. So that's the thing. Like the film industry is a fucker. And that's why I'm a big believer of like, fuck you, pay me. You know, like I'm not mad at Jeff. I'm not mad at like the Sony people, but at the same time, like if 42-year-old Natalia was asked to do this, 42-year-old Natalia now says, what's your budget?
What's your rate? Yeah.
What's my rate? Because I had another guy do that, come back to me a few months after I helped him with writing something. And I was supposed to audition for the lead role in his film, but my star meter was too low on IMDb.
That's a thing that they give a shit about?
Apparently. And this is 2009 or so. This is a while ago. But the girl who he ended up casting was more famous, and but she wasn't funny. She wasn't very funny. And so she was supposed to do this voiceover narration of her role, and she wasn't doing a very good job. So he asked me, will you do the narration so I know how to direct her better? And I said, yes, I can do that. How much will you pay? Like, what's the rate? And he said, oh no, I don't have a budget. And I was like, well, then you don't have me. But it's tough. Like, you have to kind of, at a certain point, put your foot down.
Oh, I know. I mean, I remember back in the day auditioning for commercials or short films or, you know, walk-on roles and stuff and 5 or underlines on sitcoms.
Oh man.
And then not getting it, and then
Yeah.
seeing, this sounds so horrible. I mean, I don't want to say this and be a bad person, but then you see the episode or something of the person who got it, and you're watching it, and you're just like,
Yeah.
you're like,
Okay.
you know, that person never got called back to be a recurring character, and you're just like, you just know in yourself, you're like, man, I would have fucking rocked that part.
I know, and that's always hard. It's hard. It's not easy. And although one upside, so years ago, that same crew of people, Grant Curtis brought me in on an audition to play a nurse in Spider-Man 3, and I didn't get it, and I was heartbroken because I really
You probably
wanted
watched the movie and you're like, really?
Well, no, actually, she was. That's the thing. So get this, she was great, but also I was in Tybo. Billy Blanks is Tybo. I used to go to that, but with Irene and Michael, the brother and sister of Billy. And there's this woman, Sonia, who's fantastic, who was in the class, and we were talking one day, and she said, she posted on Facebook. She's like, she posted a picture from this movie in the role that I auditioned for, that I did not get, but she got, and she said, this was the role that kept me acting. I said, and she was very religious. I am not. But she said, please, Lord, give me this part. If not, I will quit. I am done with acting. Now, I'm not a religious person. So like she and I actually used to get into conversations about religion because we had just different views on it. But I respect her views, and I just deeply love her. I think her and her husband are just fantastic humans. And so I remember seeing this and going, holy crap, that is the role that I was so heartbroken not to have gotten, but it went to somebody who needed it more. Right. And like, I rarely ever will say that, you know, because I'm just like, gosh darn it. But I was like, clearly the universe was working the way it should, because she did a great job. I think better than I would have done. And, you know, I just was happy that it kept her in the game, you know, because sometimes things happen for weird reasons.
You know, and I can totally relate to that, not auditioning for Spider-Man or something, but just on the level of, you know, even doing like background, I you know, for years I did background.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just to make extra money, but the extra money was nice, but it was to go and like sit in the green room or at the lunch table with people and find out, okay, who's doing a student film, who's directing a play, like who's working on something this weekend that needs like a 5 and under. Do you need a gaffer? Do you need like somebody to run things for you? Do you pick up craft services? Like just to like get my foot in and like make those connections, because eventually that's what led me to do my own stuff, because I don't want to be like a SAG like background actor and be expensive furniture.
Oh man, I did it for way too long. So I understand. I did it for money. Like that's how I made my living for a while. And but I did meet amazing people, and it did lead to roles down the line.
Yeah, you've gotten a lot of speaking roles and stuff. So
yeah, and also like the Drew Carey folks, it's great. Like sometimes I'm amazed. Like so, and I'm gonna give a shout out to Dan O'Keefe, who wrote the Festivus episode in Seinfeld. We're like buds, you know what I mean? And I met him as like some you know pipsqueak extra on Drew Carey, and I'm such a fan of him already. But I also am like his you know, he's my bud. So, but it's just like, these are people that I somehow found myself around that I normally wouldn't have if I was, you know, doing something else. And also I think that, you know, I'm a big believer doing what I do, which is doing science comedy, is you have to, and, you know, and any career that you want, a lot of times there's not one that's completely already out there. You know what I mean? You have to kind of carve out your career ecological niche. And that's how I feel like I've had to do as a science comedian, but also as a comedian that does, you know, every comedian has a different path, and you kind of have to carve it out your own way and get very creative and sometimes make concessions doing jobs you don't want to. And
well, you know, you got to pay your dues. And, you know, that's one of the things I've also tried to express to younger people that are just trying to get into the business, which is like, be prepared to fail, be prepared to suck, because no matter what level you think you're coming into the process, like you still have to up your game. No matter what, you have to take acting classes.
And
You have to
changing.
learn about, scripts. You have to learn about the process and how to break down a scene. And it's like, you can't just walk in and be a superstar. And like the older I get, like the less I really want that. Like, when I was in my 20s, I was just like, oh, and I'll just wander in into a Marvel movie or Star Wars movie or whatever.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, let them have these things, and then I'll just write stuff that I want to do. And I get so much more out of that, and so to wrap up here, because believe it or not, we've been going for almost 2 hours.
That's a long time, Jesus Christ.
But you've been rocking it. But I just wanted to pick your brain and kind of say, like, with your experiences, not just with like entertainment, but with everything that you've studied and learned and traveled, like, what are some advice, like topics or like little cliff notes you'd like give to some of the younger people trying to get into, I guess, well, maybe we'll just limit it to like 3 fields, because you do like, I mean, we've been going 2 hours. I mean, at some point I'll have to turn it off and go to the bathroom here. So
clearly I have a lot to just ramble on about. Well, I guess, if we want to talk about, like science communication, just given what you just said, because one of the things that is really interesting is I have a lot of younger friends. I straddle that weird line of I'm not married, I don't have kids, I'm partnered up, but I have a lot of younger friends and a lot of younger science communicator friends that are fantastic and are good at what they do. But I do notice sometimes and I don't know how to best change this, but I see a lot of science communicators that are really great at their job that are younger, that there are a lot of very valid complaints about how the film industry works, but I do feel like sometimes a lot of science communicators want the film industry to do science right by either, knowing the science as that they're going to present the best that they can. They want the producers to know like their field really well, but they don't do the work to know the industry very well. So they'll make these very broad complaints about a network or, excuse me, that was my stomach.
Okay, I'm like shifting. Like I'm sitting like cross-legged on the floor, and I move, and I'm like, "Oh, that Rice Krispies sound is me."
Yep. Yeah, I just sprained my foot a little bit over a month ago. It's just finally getting back to normal, but it was making sounds and crunches. Yeah.
You're really just throwing your body out there down the steps, aren't you?
Yeah. No. Got to do what I can to get in the right path of things, right? But yeah, I feel like, so there's this idea that we want, as scientists, we want the film industry to understand our culture of science. Well, you need to do just as much work to understand how the film industry works. Knowing what a grip is, what is a PA, what is a segment producer, what is a story producer, field producer, line producer, executive producer, which is different in every, like, reality versus scripted versus, episodic versus sitcom versus movies versus digital. They all are so different. There's it's literally their cultures. And it's important that if you want them to represent you properly, that you need to understand them, because I think that's, and understand the process, because I think the more people understand, because I just see a lot of complaining without understanding like who to really complain about. And I do think a lot of the complaints are incredibly valid. I mean, I have some nightmare stories of situations I've been in that I wish, I had as much confidence as some of these young science communicators have had to say something in the moment or speak out later. But, unfortunately, as a freelancer, as a lot of times in the freelance world, we think, oh, I can't speak up because if I speak up, they're not going to have me back. They're not going to hire me back.
People are really deathly afraid of burning bridges if they're not under contract.
Which is really screwed up, because as far as like sexual harassment, my God, have I experienced, oh my God.
I mean, I was going to ask you about that, but I didn't want to, I felt like maybe you've been asked about that before, but I kind of feel like other people that I've talked to, it was a really horrible thing. But then over the last 5 years with the whole Spacey, Weinstein, all that stuff, it seems like it's kind of, I'm sure it still exists. I'm sure it still goes on.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like it's as prevalent as it was, because people are speaking up. They have a platform. They feel safer, maybe not safest, but safer. So I feel like there's definitely more boundaries, but on the other hand too, it's weird too, being a straight white male. When that stuff was first happening, I was just like, do I just walk around like Mary Catherine Gallagher with my hands like this and just like, don't make eye contact, don't look at anybody, just eat my food like a chud or something? Because it's like you were, when that stuff was first happening, you were so afraid of like anything I say or do can be misconstrued, and it was kind of scary.
I'm a double entendre euphemism queen. And so I've even had to think twice about some of the stuff I said, because I also grew up in a very male dominated film industry that was like, I dealt with so many boys clubs growing up, working as a PA, as a set dresser, oftentimes the only, girl in this particular department, and so I had to come, I'm the queen of sexual, double entendres and sex jokes. And so I've had to tone it down, and also realizing that a lot of what I was just dealing with was just coping with, kind of beating them to the punch. Like, if I say it first, I won't feel so creeped out. Which is also really screwed up. But I also realize now that I'm dealing with, and I now actually, one of the things, and this is a big piece of advice, I think, for people that want to be in front of the camera and even behind the camera, is now I ask people if they want to be hugged. Because I think that's important, like one of my dearest friends, he's one of my main DPs in New York, who I love dearly, because I actually just froze my eggs in New York because I'm old, and he shot a lot of it. I remember when I first met him, I worked with him on a Thrillist show, and I asked him, I said, hey, do you mind if I hug you? And he's like, no, I'm not really into hugs. And I was like, cool. But it was like, so many people, because you're, in front of the camera, might feel that pressure because you're first team to hug you. And it's like, nah, you have to, and I'm not of the old school, like, oh, these kids these days, they just grow up. And it's like, no, some people have freaking trauma that you don't, cause like, just because you went through hell and that's another thing I want to also put out there, is like, just because I went through a lot of hell doesn't mean I want other young women to go through hell, or young men to go through hell.
Well, it's kind of like that old adage of, you went through it so that you can tell people about it, so it doesn't continue, or it doesn't happen to as many.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's why, like I said, is like, I think with the new science communicators complaining about very valid points, but I think it's also very important that they kind of get to know the industry, so they can actually make change in the most effective ways. As an actor, I definitely think, like you said earlier, just striking out, making your own stuff, being bold. This is something that I unfortunately doesn't grow on trees, and there's not a pill for it necessarily, but like, try not to give a fuck about, I know I waited to get headshots done because I was like, I have to be skinny enough so I wouldn't eat like 2 weeks before a headshot shoot. Like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm glad that there's a movement for body positivity, even like being sex positive and being, very open to, just, gender.
To piggyback on that, like, there was a time when I feel like some of the stores were kind of shamed into not having those like impulse buy like magazines right by the checkout stands. But in the last like 4 to 5 years, I've seen them kind of like creep back into the checkout stand like lanes where the candy is and stuff. So it's like, not only are they telling like young women, and I guess men too, like, you need to look like these jackasses, but have some candy on your way out, so it's impossible, so you become bulimic and puke it all out,
Yeah.
It's just,
I mean, goddamn, that's like.
But you know what though, as like a little kid, you're like, candy, you're not going to puke it out. You don't have any body image shame. It's just like, just going to bug your parents to just buy you the candy. But when you get to be a teenager, it's like, oh, I have to look like this.
Well, unfortunately,
I have to suck in my cheeks like Vanilla Ice.
In LA, I mean, like, my first diet was like when I was 8 or 9, when I like actually was like, I remember going to a pool party and jogging in place in front of the mirror in my 2-piece swimsuit an hour before a pool party, thinking that I would make some sort of dent. You know what I mean? And I was like, I think I was probably 8 or 9. It was bad. And it was so like, it hits at different ages and different places. And I think, and boys and girls and non-binary, I mean, anybody I think is everybody is, what I was going to say, everybody, I think nobody is,
nobody's immune to it. Nobody's cut off from it. Like, no one is hatched as some kind of like Olympic athlete body, you know?
Or just like, I mean, even that's the thing is like, even that's the craziest, that's the saddest thing. Even when I was like, I look back at pictures and I was like, I look like I could have been a model type person, but I still thought, my brain still told me you are not good enough. You know, so I'm, you know, in Burning Man and being around people that are very accepting of, I mean, and it's not just, you know, Burning Man has it's rife with its own issues, but being around, you know, people that are from, you know, many walks of life, not enough walks of life, as we know that Burning Man is a very, unfortunately, white event, but, you know, people that have very artistic ways of thinking and, you know, maybe using some psychedelics in there to help me kind of sort of accept myself in a better way. But it really does come with age. I wish there was you know, a little blue pill that made you just kind of go, you know, I love myself. I'm pretty freaking great. You know, I think always striving to be better is one thing, but body issues are such a kick in the pants, honestly. So I think I will say, men and women out there, anyone listening, don't wait to get your headshots. Love yourself, you know, because I mean, if you want to like, grow out that scruff a couple days or maybe like do your eyebrows or whatever, sure. But like, do not do the dumb, because I remember doing it for years. Like, I'm going to wait a few months till I lose some weight. And oh, goodness gracious. Like so many days wasted time, you know, so then, like I'm not going to go out to this party because I have a zit.
Yourself in the foot, because it happened to me too, where I, when I was first in LA and they're like, yeah, maybe like, you know, go to the beach for a few days, get a little tan or something. Ugh. And I was like, oh, well, I don't have the money for headshots now, but you know, when I get the second job or whatever, I'll get new headshots. And then something came up, and then they were like, that was back in the day. I think you still had to like mail them, maybe like 20 years ago, before you could like send an attachment. Anyway, then I sent them my headshots, and they're like, well, this is not what you looked like in the audition. We asked for like your newest headshot. And I was like, oh, well, I just haven't taken them that. And they're like, okay, well, we'll be in touch.
Yeah. I mean, this is
that way.
Then that's a sad thing. Well, now it's like, I mean, honestly, kids, all you need is an iPhone portrait.
Oh yeah. It's happened to me. Like I've even said to people like that I've casted, like in the short that I made last year, we made a short all on Zoom. It was a murder mystery.
Yeah.
That's great. And then they had to come up with their own costume and how they got killed and stuff. I just said, well, just take a picture. Like in my mind, it's like, if you look close enough to the character, it's fine. You know, we're just doing this for free to do something, to make something during the lockdown, you know, last year. And it was like, I could have never done that even 5 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Crazy.
I think it's just being bold, making choices, like getting weird. I mean, like I, you know, doing that goat slut thing, or before I used to do like my own little characters and stuff at shows. And I mean, and that's another thing. My mom always gives me shit for every time I make a video or do like, you know, even like the web series, I'm doing a web series about freezing eggs. She's like, oh, it's so much work for you. And I said, yeah, but like, if I can help one person make that decision, but also it's like, that's something.
It's fun for you though. Like I can see when you make a video that you're in it. It's like, you can so tell when somebody's making something and they're not 100% into it, or God forbid, my daughter and I were laughing about this in the car. When celebrities do like a voiceover and they're promoting an event and they're not into it and they're clearly just reading it.
Yep.
Like there was one for the iHeartRadio Music Festival.
Yeah.
And my daughter loves this actress, but it was Selena Gomez. And she's like, hi, it's Selena Gomez. Come to the iHeart Music Festival where you'll see such bands as, and they just cut in a bunch of band names.
Goodness.
Like, yes, and you'll see me, and we'll all be together, and it'll be fantastic. See you then. And it literally sounded like she was about ready to be like this. And I get it, because she probably just got pushed into a booth, and somebody was like, you said you would do this a couple months ago. She probably hadn't had any coffee. And they're like, Sonny, just read this. And she's like, the contents of the Ritz crackers are, you know.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We've all done that we've all been like, huh? And then all of a sudden you're handed like a cold reading thing and you're like, I guess I'll jazz this up. But
right. Well, that's the thing. I think I was just talking to a friend. Actually, I'm going to see my friend. If anyone's actually, no, never mind. This isn't live. Scratch that. Because it's like, is anyone's in Los Angeles tonight? I'm like, never mind.
Tonight.
My friend Justin Herman is a comedian, and we used to do I don't think I've ever done stand up with him, but I did stand up in New York. I did stand up in LA and in New York, but he's opening for a guy named Daniel Simonson, who's freaking hilarious. He's Norwegian comic, very funny. But anyways, we were just talking about the benefits of doing open mics and doing stand up, and like, why do we do? My mom actually spent like a better part of a letter in 2019 explaining to me why she doesn't think I'm funny enough to do stand up. I was like, Jesus. Oh. But I also tried, because she's like, I don't understand why you're throwing your time and efforts into doing stand-up, which I understand. Like, stand-up is an art. Stand-up is its own beast.
But I mean, if you get something out of it, then it's fine.
Well, yeah. And basically what Justin and I were talking about recently was that we do stand-up. I mean, he's a great stand-up. I think he's fantastic. And, you know, like I said, he's opening tonight for Daniel Simonson. So he's doing okay. But like, even why I keep doing it is it keeps me writing. And for me as somebody, I'm not just an actor, I'm a writer as well. I almost feel like I'm more of a writer than an actor. And I mean, at this point, I write more than I act, but it's something that keeps you writing. It keeps you performing. It keeps you thinking outside of the box. You know, I also watch other comics. It's such a
that, and no
process.
matter it's I compare it. I haven't done stand up in like a long time, but I compare it kind of to which is a sport I don't even watch, which is boxing, because everyone's got a plan until they get hit, which is like, you can write the funniest 1, 2, 3 arc joke or funny story from your childhood, but until you get up in front of an audience and have them just be like this.
Yep.
And they're like, oh, I guess I better have another fucking joke
you
lined
better
up,
do
ready to go. I better
something.
have a zinger ready in
Yeah.
my pocket to just be like, unzing, so they will be zinged or zanged. I don't know what the fuck. So as we wrap it up here, I guess this will air like the weekend of, we'll put it on YouTube, Halloween weekend. So do you have any big Halloween plans this year?
Oh dear God. Living another day, surviving. I don't know. Raisin, what are we doing? I feel like I should have a hat on. Hold on, I have my David Bowie Halloween Jack wig. So
I'm
for
not
Halloween,
insane, right?
oh my God, yes. So yeah. I actually generally I dress up as David Bowie. Oh wait, hold on. No, we're gonna go full.
Nice.
There we go. Okay, this is very Halloween Jack.
The
David Bowie. So for Halloween this year, we live in a neighborhood with kids, so we might actually, this is my first time being back in Los Angeles for Halloween for many years. And so we might do some trick-or-treating, like kiddos and stuff. I'm not going to take any kids because that's weird, because they're not my own, but I'll open the door for them.
Somebody's kid and be like, just put it in the bag that says Natalia. It's fine.
Get in the car. I'm a friend of your mother's. Terrible joke. Oh, sorry. Scratch it. I grew up in the 80s. That was like a big thing. Actually, yeah, my high school boyfriend, we were trying to do that when we were kids, like play pranks and say that to kids. And it would be my turn. I'd be like, get in the car. I'm a friend of your mother's. I couldn't say it. I felt like such a
prank
jerk.
that I used to like to do when it comes to stuff like that, which is maybe less creepy, maybe, I don't know, more creepy, but we'd always bring like our friend's dog, and then like mom would go like into a store, and then we'd stay in the car, and then we'd roll the windows down and put the dog on the front seat with hands on the steering wheel, and roll the windows down and be like, hey kid, come here. And the kid, like little kid would come up and he was like, you're a dog. They're like, get in the car, I don't have time to explain.
I don't know, just get in. That's
it's
so
your
funny.
Kids, they're trying to be assholes.
Oh man. Well, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I have a wedding the week before, so I have a feeling we'll probably be, I'm not my own wedding. Someone else's, but
the dog. Yeah.
Are you gonna do anything for Halloween? What are you doing with your daughter?
Well, my daughter is up in the age where the trick or treat's kind of behind us, so we're probably gonna go to like a low key little shindig where the kids kind of get together and complain about watching like child appropriate movies, and the adults just sit in another room and drink. I don't know. It's the way it goes. Like, I'm a single parent, so like any way I can get a bunch of kids to interact with each other, thus wear themselves out
and go to sleep,
and then I can have what I call adult conversations,
right, with
actual adults. And it's sad too, because they always every friend of mine that has kids, they're always like, yeah, come on over and we'll watch like scary movies until like 3 in the morning, and it'll be great, and we'll have like drinks, and we'll order food, it'll be awesome, and so-and-so's going to be here, and they haven't seen you for 2 or 3 years. And then we get together, and then it's like 11:30, and everybody's just like,
kill me now. That's, yeah. I mean,
so that's what you're missing with not having kids. So it's kind of like good and the bad, you rapscallions are going to be out there probably terrorizing the neighborhood until 2 or 3 in the morning.
Probably practice having children on Halloween. How about that? How's that sound? It's a little TMI.
Good luck with that.
Thanks. Now, I mean, we have some eggs on ice. So when we get down to business, I'm thinking in the next year and a half, depending where our careers are. Yeah, we might try to make some babies, but right now we still got some work to do.
I think the viewership on this video that's not going to be posted for 2 weeks just went through the roof.
Oh yeah.
So thanks for that.
That was a sex joke. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I gotta say, thank you so much for being on the show. I know you're super crazy busy with all of your IST titles. So when I do post this in the little blurb on YouTube, should I start with one title? Or do you prefer to be known as?
No, you can just say anthropologist comedian if that's what you want.
Okay. Yeah, I just didn't know. I mean, sometimes people are really picky and they're like, how dare you? I'm the, 18-word title of their job.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. No. I mean, it's tough because when I apply for jobs, I never know what to put because I'm like, I have to think about what the job, what will entice people more. Whatever you think is more enticing.
I think this image of you, just you being like,
hold on, wait. Let's make it even weirder. Let's get real weird.
That is awesome. It can't be any weirder than deadlights.
I know. This is Terry, the farting pterodactyl. I have to cover my mouth. Yeah, this is the farting pterodactyl that flies. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm telling you with my professional teaching stuff. Yeah. And then I don't know if you want me to mention any of the podcast stuff that I do, if you want me to plug anything or anything.
Yeah. So go ahead and plug your website, plug your YouTube stuff, your all your social media. I mean, we've gone 2 hours and might as well fill it up some more, right?
Well, if you want to find some of the shit I've done, I've been the co-host or host of Star Talk All Stars. If you're looking for an anthropology themed website, we have tons of those. If you go to Star Talk All Stars and just Google Natalia Reagan, you can find that. Things on Neanderthals, teeth, fossils in our mouths, climate change, all sorts of fun stuff. If you want to listen to some porn parody podcasts, you can look no further than Two Girls, One Mic, which I have actually an episode to do later today with a kink historian in Australia, because let's just face it, those Australians, I mean, they're kinky as hell. So I do that. I'm a regular co-host there with Alice Vaughn. You can also find my website, thenataliareagan.com. I also have nataliareagan.com. Don't ask. I don't understand. I need to get rid of one.
I wasn't going to. I'm like, say Libby.
I'm not good at this kind of stuff. But then also at Natalia13Reagan on Twitter and on Instagram, because I had 13 bodies buried in my sandbox as a child. No, it's just the day I was born. It's a dumb username, dumb handle. So you can make fun of me. But yeah, it's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And
No, I'm wanting to do this for a while. I'm glad we're able to work it out. And if you know anybody else that's got anything, like the artist friends that they've got like CDs or paintings or books or anything, just send them my way and we'll get them scheduled.
Absolutely. And hopefully I'll have a butt book in the next year. So
you got to come back on, because that might be a 3-hour show of nothing but butt jokes.
Oh my God. So cheeky.
Thank you so much for being on the show,
you.
Natalia, and you guys have a great weekend.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.